This one particular issue triggers Bill Maher to no end. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Bill Maher on a recent episode of the Triggernometry podcast. Now, this was a really funny clip because Bill Maher often says things that I agree with. He's a liberal, obviously, but sometimes you can't really tell he's a liberal. He'll say things that make perfect, absolute sense. He doesn't sound crazy. He doesn't sound too ridiculous. He sounds like a rational human being. Although he's still a liberal, and I don't agree with him on everything, I agree with him on a lot of things he says. When he goes on Joe Rogan's podcast and they're having their back and forth, a lot of it makes sense. But there's certain things that he'll talk about that'll remind you why he's still very much a liberal. And one of them is Donald Trump and the election. Okay. Now, that right there, once he gets on that topic, he goes back into full-blown, stone-cold, stomp-down, leftist, liberal, Hillary Clinton, Ilhan Omar. He goes into that mode immediately, and it's pretty funny to see because obviously he's getting triggered personally behind what's going on. Now, before I go any further, let's go ahead and get into the clip. If you want to see the clip in full, as always, link will be in the description. If you're on IG, visit a link in the bio. Go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
If the guy doesn't concede elections...
Did Hillary concede elections?
Yeah, of course Hillary conceded.
She said he's an illegitimate president.
When did she say that?
I think that he is being facetious. He's not really being honest. I think he knows that Hillary Clinton denied the election, as did Stacey Abrams and many others. They say, oh, no, I didn't lose. He cheated. And really, the whole Russia collusion, all of that was election denying from 2016, if we're going to be all the way 1,000% honest, which I don't think Bill Maher is doing right here. But let's actually continue.
She said that in 2016. She said he knows he is an illegitimate president.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did. And I take responsibility for those parts of it that I should. And so I know that he knows that this wasn't on the level.
I mean, what is she doing right here? If she's not denying the election results, then what is she doing? Now, some on the left are going to say, well, she had a legitimate reason, all this, that, and the third. Well, everyone thinks they have a legitimate reason for denying the results. Everyone thinks that they are right when they say this person didn't do things fair and square. Everyone thinks they're right, and everyone's entitled to an opinion, except for conservative Republicans. If you think that something wasn't right with the election, that means you're a denier, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're a tinfoil hat wearer, and everything else up under the sun. You're not given the ability to be objective in that way. But let's keep on going.
I don't know that we'll ever know everything that happened, but clearly we know a lot and are learning more every day, and history will probably sort it all out. So of course he's obsessed with me, and I believe that it's a guilty conscience in so much as he has a conscience.
After the election?
Yeah. Russia collusion, what was that if not denying the election? They made up a story, which was a hoax.
Well, it wasn't a hoax.
Yeah, it was.
It was a hoax because, as far as I remember, there was a whole impeachment process over the whole Russia thing, and he beat it. So obviously it wasn't true. Somebody could say it's a hoax. Somebody could say that it was a mistake. Somebody could say that it was an allegation that wound up not being true. Regardless of what, it was not true. It was not a real thing. Russia is complete nonsense. Now, what Bill Maher is going to say right here, as far as a dollar amount that Russia allegedly spent to sway the election, is going to knock your socks off. Watch this.
Was?
Well, just what wasn't true? What part
the
of
Russia collusion? The idea that
there was collusion with Russia.
The idea
there
that
was absolute collusion with Russia.
Is that why he won the election? Do you think?
Partly. It was a very close election. Yeah, you don't think Russia could sway, 77,000 votes in 3 states? Of course they could. And they did, partly through social media.
Okay, so he's saying that Russia is the reason why they swayed this many votes, less than 100,000 votes, out of how many millions of people? So you think that Russia specifically engaged in a wide sweeping campaign that was targeted to everyone, and they were able to affect the specific 77,000 votes that turned the election? Is that what we're going to say? That all those people, that every person that's part of the 77,000 that was enough to change the election, and it was all done by Russia and nobody else?
Partly for their propaganda there and what they were trying to do there, which was very successful, cost about $100,000.
So you think that the campaign led by Russia to change the outcome of the election only costs 100 grand? Really? That's nothing. I mean, you might spend that or as one person trying to get your Facebook page jumping. 100 bands from the Russian Federation that changed the whole election in 2016. Come on. Come on, man. Like, do you really believe that? Honestly, do you really believe that? And if we're going to say that the Russian Federation engaged in collusion to sway the election for Donald Trump and against Hillary Clinton, then what are you going to say about the mainstream media over here? The mainstream media was 1,000% behind Hillary Clinton. Not only the mainstream media, but the federal government itself. The federales spying on Trump. And they did everything in their power to get Trump out of the way, but it didn't work. So are we going to deny that? If we're going to say that the Russian Federation helped Trump, then why don't we say who helped Hillary Clinton? Was she doing this by herself, having double the money that he had? I mean, let's just not play games. Hillary Clinton had about 1.3 billion with a B, 1.3 billion during their campaign. Trump had 750 million. We're not going to talk about that, but let's continue.
And then, I mean, Trump's campaign manager was trading campaign data with a GRU.
I think what Trump was saying is completely wrong. I agree. But
there was collusion.
But the Democrats also denied the election in 2016.
They sure did.
They did.
Okay, I mean, maybe one time Hillary said something like that.
No, one time. She went on the whole tour. Isn't there a book about this that she wrote? Maybe I'm wrong about the book part, but she went on the whole tour. She said the same thing for years. And I'm pretty sure if you were to ask her right now, she said the same thing. She's not changed in her stance. And other Democrats have said the same thing about the election. Remember, the whole Russia thing was about denying the results of the election. That was the whole purpose. That was it. And then that wound up not being true. He beat that. He beat 2 impeachments back to back. And now we're going through the same thing to keep him out of the White House.
That you ask her today, this is not an issue for the Democrats. You're making a ridiculously false.
Their faces while he's saying this, priceless.
Think?
Comparison, of course.
So there's more from this particular podcast. That's just one little piece of it. And I will link to the full thing in the box. Thank you to Myth and from Milwaukee for posting this. This was a great find. But yeah, Bill Maher, again, I like what he says quite a bit. He says some things that make sense when he goes on Joe Rogan and even on his own show. He says some things that make sense. But sometimes that liberal just pops out. Like normally he keeps it under control. It's like if you ever been on a bus in a city like Los Angeles, New York, and then you get to a certain stop, it'll be a guy standing right there acting normal. And then once he gets on the bus, he just wows out. That's him. That's Bill Maher. He'll be normal. And you think, okay, this is a good guy. It's a cool guy. And then it just pop out with the liberal stuff. And he'll just be a complete ridiculous moron when it comes to that particular thing. It's really weird. But as I close, I want to say this. Shout out to everybody who can acknowledge that Hillary Clinton and many others, including more famously, in my opinion, Stacey Abrams. Shout out to everybody who can admit that they were denying the results of the election. I don't like the whole thing about, oh, well, he said that the election didn't go right. It was rigged or whatever. And we don't do that. We would never do that when there's video evidence of them saying the exact same thing or worse. Literally, they're not any different. If you're going to talk about election denying and how it's bad, it can't just be bad on one side. It needs to be bad on both sides or not bad at all. Either you're going to be able to express yourself and say that you think that there was some funny business going on with the election, or you can't. It can't be, well, you can do it, but you can't. That's a big time double standard. You're being hypocritical and you're being almost as ridiculous as Bill Maher was right there on that podcast stage with trigonometry. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think that Bill Maher had a point that there was no real denying of the election from Hillary Clinton and everybody? Maybe she said it one time, but if you ask her now, she'll think differently. Do you think that he's right? Do you think that he's wrong? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. Bill Maher says some things that make sense sometimes, but sometimes that liberal that is there pops right out and you be like, oh, okay, I do remember he is a liberal. He's not one of us, obviously. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.